Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, I am going to be doing my weekly update for the first week of August. Where does the time go? And so in this one, I'm going to be talking about what I read and listened to, and just talking a little bit more about those books and giving you an idea of what reviews you can expect later this week. So starting it out, I finished up the audio for Dungeon Crawler Karl. I mentioned I was about halfway in my last update, and this was fantastic. This was really one of those examples of a time where I was completely mistaken on what a book was actually going to be like, and yet was very pleasantly surprised by it. I was thinking this was going to be a silly kind of thing, and the plot of it being it's like, you know, a dungeon crawler that takes place on the world, and we have our main character and his cat going through. I'm like, oh, this is going to be pretty silly. It's got a much darker tone than I was thinking, and it makes a lot of sense because it's taking the base premise of like the entire world has basically been destroyed, and anybody who was inside buildings is dead. Only people who are outside are even allowed to go into the dungeon, and it's like everything's been repurposed. And so the premise, when you think about it, is dark, and normally I feel like it would have been presented a much more light, and there is some humor, but it's more so dark humor, and like the tone and the stakes are a lot higher than I was expecting for something like this. I really did thoroughly enjoy it. This is one of those things I feel like audio is what you have to do based on the performance, but I will be doing a full review later this week for Dungeon Crawler Karl to talk a little bit more about my thoughts, because I really enjoyed this one. It was an easy 5 stars for me, based on just how invested I was in what I thought was really going to be a silly story and turned out not to be. Then next up, I read Soul Music, and this is this beautiful one of these Discworld Emporium hardcovers, which I haven't even done a book haul video yet, that Andrew sent me. And I had been meaning to get to the next Discworld book for quite some time. This is where I was at. The last one I read was Men at Arms, which was absolutely fantastic, but I hadn't done another one in quite some time. So I decided to move on. I am doing a publication order for these, so that's where Soul Music was next, and I enjoyed the heck out of this one. So this is definitely, out of the death books, death is in them to varying degrees. This one I feel like is absolutely the least. Death is barely in this book, despite it being a death book, and it still is a death book, which, you know, if you've read it, you'll see because of what's going on. But also, it is the big plot, and the thing I enjoyed the most is the music plot. With the, you know, soul music, and this book is of course about music with rocks in, and has just all kinds of references to a lot of like pioneers of rock and roll, some newer things too, a lot of references to bands, songs, that kind of thing. It really worked for me. I spent, after finishing it, I made like a whole big playlist on Spotify of a bunch of the different songs and bands that were referenced, and was just listening to a lot of older music, just because I kept getting songs stuck in my head. There'd be the reference, and I'm like, now I'm thinking about this song. So it was just one that really worked for me, and I loved that plot and kind of how it explored the idea of like the rock star and being memorialized with the music, the whole idea of all of these rock stars, that it seems like music is the only thing keeping them alive, and, you know, a lot of those kinds of things that it explores in a pretty fun way. It also features Cut My Own Throat Dibbler quite a lot, getting involved in the music business, which was also fun. I will say, the base plot with the music part reminded me a lot. I felt like it was a very similar structure to Moving Pictures, except Moving Pictures, of course, was classic and like pioneer films. And I still got some of the references. I'm sure there are some I missed, but some of them were like, you know, really obvious in that one. But I didn't enjoy that one nearly as much. And I think the difference is the material here that it's being riffed on being music, especially rock music. I identified a lot with more. I caught a lot more of the subtle references, and some not so subtle, of course, too. And so I feel like that's kind of why this one worked a little bit better for me than that one did. So I really enjoyed this one. I gave this one 4 stars. It was just a really fun romp. I had a lot of fun here with. On the Kindle, I read Soulsmith, the second book in the Cradle series, which was kind of a shorter, faster-paced thing. I really, in case you couldn't tell, I wanted some shorter, easier things. After just kind of finishing up a lot, I decided to do some lighter books, which was nice, actually finishing a couple of books, too, during the week. And this one I thought was okay. I feel like I didn't like it as much as the first book. The first book I think I gave like a 3 or 3.5 stars. It was okay. I wasn't super in. I heard these get a lot better, and I didn't dislike the book by any means. I landed probably about 3 stars. Toward the end, some of the things happening I liked quite a lot more, but this kind of felt like it was just starting to introduce some of the other aspects of the world, and so I think that's partially what's going on. I feel like the first book started on a very small scale and expanded a little bit, and this is where we're really starting to expand. So I think it's kind of still finding its footing. Like I said, I've heard a lot of people that say it gets quite a lot better. So I'm still planning on continuing, even though I wasn't a huge fan of book 2, but it was pretty solid seeing Lyndon start to grow and progress on its journey, and explaining a lot more about the different places of the world, and how this particular place, which it seems like we're going to be in this setting, the very broad setting, but in the setting for a bit. So I'll be interested to see what comes next. It's likely I'll continue. I have the first 9 on ebook that I got a while back, and they're pretty short, easy to get through. So it's likely in the next couple months I'll probably do at least 1 or 2 more, I would guess, but we'll have to see. And then the audio I'm doing right now is Lord of Chaos by Robert Jordan, Book 6 in the Wheel of Time. And I'm doing audio, but just fun fact, this is how small the text is in this book. This is a 700-page book, but that's how small the text is, so it's longer than it seems. This is definitely a big, long one, but I've just been having a blast with this. I've read the series so many times that I kind of forget what happens in what particular book a lot of the time. This is really one where it starts to amp up. I finished the first 7 chapters, so I'm like 160-something pages in so far, and we get a ton more of the Forsaken, seeing their scheming and plotting, getting to learn a lot more about them. We get more Band of the Red Hand stuff with Matt, which Matt and the Band of the Red Hand are some of my favorite characters and kind of plot lines. Also great there as well, and we start to dig in more with those kinds of things as well, and starting some stuff, of course, going on with Perrin and Rand, and just where the like White Tower plots are going as well, are pretty exciting. So I've said all that in a pretty non-spoiler fashion, just being pretty vague, but it's a lot of great stuff going on here. And I'm excited to keep going with this one. Just reminding me how much I really enjoy this book. A lot of good stuff that is going on. I know none of that'll make sense if you're not familiar with the Wheel of Time, and so that's why I felt fine saying it, because it's all very, very vague with it. So that is kind of where I am at so far with what I've gotten to done, and so already finishing a couple of books, making good progress on Lord of Chaos so far. Feeling pretty good. I still do want to up my pace. I've been saying that for a while in the updates, but we'll have to see. And I'm deciding still what I'm going to read. I have a lot of things that I want to read next. Obviously, I can't do all of them, so we'll see where I end up on the next update as well, but we'll go from there. I forgot to mention, because I mentioned Dungeon Crawler Karl, the other review coming up is going to be Wizard of Earthsea, which I finished right at the end of last month as well. Going to be doing a review talking about that, which was a buddy read also, so watch out for that review coming out soon as well. But that is it for this update, so make sure to give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Check the link in the description, as always, for the Wizardly Duet Discord. If you want to chat books, whether any of these books, other books, any books, really anything at all, it is a lot of fun, and we would love to have you. Of course, if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe.